Here is CNN's David Chalian. He's vice president of CNN. David Chalian celebrating Biden's victory, cut 14.
It is sort of a day to step back and celebrate democracy, but it is also a day that has responsibility attached to it. Our responsibility to show all the viewers, to show the country and the world this process unfold while Donald Trump and his allies want to suggest falsely, without any realm of fact, that the election was rigged or stolen or some way not what it is.
Now, and we know we can trust David Chalian of CNN because we have him on tape from Project Veritas spiking the Hunter Biden story, covering it up by saying a very, very particular thing. This is cut 8, Jeff Zucker talking, and then the same David Chalian you just heard celebrating democracy because there's not an element of any kind of proof that there was any kind of fraud anywhere ever in this election. This is cut 8.
On the Breitbart, New York Post, Fox News rabbit hole of Hunter Biden, which I don't think anybody outside of that world understood last night. The Wall Street Journal reported that their review of all corporate records showed no role for Joe Biden on the Chinese deal. And yes, I do put more credibility in the Wall Street Journal than I do in the New York Post.
Obviously, we're not going with the New York Post story right now on Hunter Biden, and which seems to be giving its marching orders to Fox News and the right-wing echo chamber about what to talk about today. Obviously, Hunter Biden's lawyer is quoted in that New York Post piece, and we'll just continue to report out. This is the very stuff that the president was impeached over.
So that doesn't really sound exactly like he thinks it sounds. This is what the president was impeached over because the Democrats were protecting this vast web of corruption that is the Biden family. The Biden family has been doing this for, centuries. I think they were actually doing this in 1776. They were influence peddling, and everybody knows they do it. It's alleged. We'll say it's alleged, right? It's alleged, but it's alleged by just about everybody. They all know he's doing it. And Trump said, to the president of Ukraine, you ought to investigate this. So they impeached him with the press playing along. It's an information war. That is the war that we're fighting. And, it naturally pushes them again into the Chinese camp. It's not, I'm sure that the Chinese are trying to infiltrate the Republicans as well. I'm sure there are plenty of Republicans who would sleep with a Chinese spy, believe me, that, but it puts the Democrats in a particular position of defending things that support the Chinese, and not just the Democrats, the swamp in general. Yesterday, Kurt Schlichter was doing a local LA show. This is actually true. They asked me to do it, but I didn't want to do it, so they settled for Kurt. So it was a drop down. But listen, no, Kurt's a pal, and I'm just kidding. But he had Congressman Lee Zeldin of New York on, talking about the problems. What are the problems with dealing with China? Let's play the first cut 4.
On multiple levels, they're compromised as it relates to China. One is you have the historical status quo way of thinking. So some are just ingrained in continuing to think the way that they've always thought for years or decades of their service. So that's one issue. Two is you see individuals who get compromised. Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, the Biden family. You start to make business dealing decisions, and you get compromised at that next level.
So that's the way the Democrats are caught up, is that this is the way of thinking. This is the way the swamp thinks, and that means that individuals are going to get caught up in the Chinese, and the resistance to Trump also helped. This is cut 5.
We're just going through and coming off of a rough experience for our country as it relates to coronavirus. I mean, that started in China. And when you have this desire to resist, oppose, impeach, and obstruct President Trump and anyone associated with him with regard to everything and anything, you start to provide cover to China because you're afraid that if you go after China, then somehow you can't blame President Trump for coronavirus as much as you want to. So that third piece is the political calculation where Democrats see it to their advantage to provide cover. So on multiple levels, they're compromised.
You can see it's a conspiracy of interest. They're compromised on multiple levels because it's the swamp way of thinking, because they have personal investments, and because hitting China makes it harder for them to hit Trump. And so in every way, they are soft on China and a good place for China to move into influencing America. Mike Pompeo made this point on Newsmax that it's Donald Trump has been unique in his dealings with China. This is cut 3.
Donald Trump's the first president who, this is not political, both political parties looked away and bent a knee to the Chinese Communist Party. President Trump said enough, and we've begun to turn the corner and build out a coalition all around the world of democracies and free market economies to push back against this threat.
When you were speaking to Georgia Tech just recently, you called Xi Jinping's intentions nothing short of sinister. Talk about that a little bit.
Well, when I was at Georgia Tech, I was talking about a particular area. That's the America's education institutions where they have infiltrated, sent spies. You've seen what the FBI has done recently. They have now 360,000 Chinese students studying here in America. Some of them are here just to study, but many of them return home. We care deeply about the Chinese people. We want them to be successful, but we can't allow them to come steal secrets from our leading research institutions, places like Georgia Tech. We can't allow the Confucius Institutes to act in ways that work against the American people. Those are the kind of things that President Trump has taken on. We're beginning to have success. There's an awful lot more work left to be done.
This is the Trump victory. This is the Trump victory because there's more work to be done, and now we know. And there are going to be people, the Reagan of the future, the Cold War of the future, that the Reagan of the future is going to have to win. Is this war not against socialism, but against Chinese capitalism? And remember, when you look at Twitter, when you look at Amazon, when you look at Davos, China isn't a threat to their agenda. It is their agenda. Chinese capitalism is their agenda. Maybe they don't want to kill people. Maybe they don't want to put people in camps, but they want to silence them. They want ideological lockstep, and they want a free market in which they make billions, but you can't go to work because your store is closed. That is the thing that Trump has exposed. He may not have meant to do it, but his attitudes did it. His way of operating did it. And now the GOP knows. And if they try to go back to Jeb ! Or they try to go to Nick Fuentes, racism, they're going to lose. But if they follow this point that freedom, the threat to freedom in our generation, in your generation, not mine, because I'm not going to be around to see the end of this fight, but the threat to freedom now is Chinese capitalism. It's Ayn Randianism. It's the idea that money is everything, but freedom doesn't matter. It's the other way around.